Excuse me while I grab my reading glasses. Good morning, everyone. My name's Bob Jacobson. I'm the Commissioner of Public Safety. It's my honor to serve in that position. I've been in that position since January 2nd of 2023. Today is an exciting day. Today we are here to announce the opening of the state's Missing and Murdered Relatives Reward Fund TIP program. This fund exists because families who have been impacted by the MMIR epidemic demanded action, urgency, and justice for their loved ones. We heard your call at the Department of Public Safety, and we continue to hear your calls. The epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous relatives is complex, but at its core, it is certainly a public safety issue. Every person in the state of Minnesota deserves to live a life of dignity that is free from violence. And if we stand with the Indigenous communities who have called on the state to support that vision, and we stand with the dedicated men and women who do the hard work to make that happen each and every day. And with that, allow me to introduce one of those dedicated people, Anna Negretti, Interim Director for the Office of Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives. Anna?
Thank you, Commissioner. Before we go any further, I want to ground us in why we're here today. We are here first and foremost because there are empty spaces and places where many of our relatives used to be. There are questions that have gone unanswered for far too long. These questions bring us here today. These questions need to be answered, and our families need and deserve justice. I want to acknowledge the work that started in the city of Duluth. A group of elders, community leaders, banded together to form the fund that inspired this work and this fund. They didn't know if this would bring their loved ones back, but they knew that it would help others. Today, the time has come, the time that our families have waited for. They've waited for so many things over the last years and sometimes decades. They've waited for calls, for answers, to say words they can't say or no longer hear from their loved ones, and they waited for this process. They wait for justice, and they waited for this fund to exist. That wait comes to an end today. Today, we take step forwards to answer the call for help and support. We begin today with these relatives. There are so many more that I want to acknowledge that I imagine will be added to this list. But this is where we begin. I will say their names and they will not be forgotten. Jojo Boswell, Melissa Burt, Leo Coleman Cortez, Mato Dow, Melissa Mitzi Eagleshield, April Geyer, Eleanor Halverson, Ellie, Jeremy Jourdain, Nevaeh Kingbird, Allison Lucier, Taylor Mateau, Peter Martin, Kateri Michaud, Frank Ortley, Sheila St. Clair, and Timothy Stone. In 2022, thanks to the hard work and dedication of many, including Senator Mary Kunesh, who is here with us today, the legislator created the Gaagige-Mikwendaagoziwag Reward Fund with an allocation of $250,000 to start that fund, the first of its kind in the nation. With that, our dedicated advisory group began our next steps to develop what we have before you today. For that, I thank each and every member of that group for their time and commitment to making this fund a reality. I want to acknowledge that this work is not only our work, but supported by systems including Crime Stoppers, the BIA, Missing Murdered Unit, and law enforcement partners like Chief Maston, who also joins us today. For their guidance and partnership, I thank you. And to the people of Minnesota, nearly 4,500 of you have purchased the MMIR specialty plates that contributes to raising an additional close to more than $100,000 for this fund. I am beyond thankful for everybody who's stepped up and showed that support. Your support is more than financial, and I can't say enough thank yous. I also want to thank other relatives and the communities that have stepped up in different ways to show support. Over the past few months, I've met with some hardcore rock bands who played a show and wanted to make sure that the community knew about MMIR. There is a chef here in town with Indigenous roots, and he too made sure that we were talking about MMIR. There's so many people to thank for what we have before us, but we know it's just a beginning point. I want to say one final thing as I hand it off to Senator Kunish. To the families, you're the heart of this work, and you're not alone. So thank you to all of you. I'm humbled to have played a part in this role and helping roll this out. And now I proudly welcome Senator Mary Kunish, who has championed this initiative from the very beginning.
Well, he hane washte, ampe tukene shante washte, Mary Kunish imaki yapie, malakota. I just welcomed all of you with a strong handshake and a good heart. I'm State Senator Mary Kunish, descendant of the Standing Rock Nation, and I'm very proud to be here with all of you today and to see the progress that we have made in the last 7-8 years towards acknowledging the pandemic of our missing and murdered Indigenous relatives, as well as taking action to address those issues. I think back to 2018 when I started the legislation to create the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Task Force. I was a fresh legislator, not knowing how to do it or what to do, but luckily I was able to create partnerships with so many of the agencies across the state of Minnesota. We created that task force, the first one in the nation, and then went on to do the work that we wanted to do within that task force in spite of COVID and in spite of so many different roadblocks. Upon the completion of the MMIR task force, we had 12 recommendations, and the very first one was to create that permanent office of the missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. And I want to thank Anna. I want to thank all of those that worked so hard to create it. Juliet Rudy, who was our first director and put things in place for us. And then we progressively have done the work that we wanted to do. One of them was to create this task force, this reward system. I was inspired by the work that they were doing in Duluth, and Representative Kozlowski was part of that. And with that inspiration, we were able to create that reward fund with just $250,000 in it. And then driving to the Capitol one day, I had an inspiration to create a specialty license plate, and I am so proud of this license plate. It very much was what I had in mind. We have the ribbon skirt, we have the emblem of the MMIR office on it, and I can tell you it really warms my heart as I drive through the Twin Cities, drive through the state actually, and see this license plate. I don't think that's going to stay up there. You can hold that. But I think it is just showing in the shift of the approach that we are addressing this historic violence against our Indigenous relatives that have continued to happen for centuries, for generations. This reward fund, they tell me, in just the year that it was there, has garnished over $100,000 to go into the reward fund, to not only use it to look and investigate missing and murders, but also to help access information from the community as well. And I'm also excited that there were over, was it 400 and over, how many?
4,000.
4,500 license plates are out there. And it really, as I said, when I'm out and about and I see that license plate, it just tells me that we're on the right track. So if you find a MMIR kerchief on your car when you have that license plate, or if somebody drives by honking at you, waving with a thumbs up, it might be me, it might be Anna. But just really want to thank all those involved, not only the community, but the agencies that are working so hard to make sure that we have these resources in place and that we are able to continue the work. So with that, I say Chimigwe, Chwopilitanka, and Pinigigi. And next we have Chief Maston.
Thank you. I also need readers at this point. So, all right. Well, first of all, I am honored to be here. This topic is near and dear to my heart. Within our own community, the Bemidji Police Department, unlike many others across the state, we have investigated thousands of missing person cases throughout the years. Thankfully, because of the diligent work of officers and detectives in our community, only 2 remain missing. And those 2 have been missing for far too long. Those individuals are Jeremy Jourdain and Nevaeh Kingbird. And I'm hopeful that this reward program encourages people who have been holding on to information for far too long to come forward. It's time to give these families closure. The process for setting up this, Anna and I have had many discussions. It's a complex program, it's a complex issue, and we're hopeful that it's simple for people to use. The MMIR office does not accept tips directly. Those tips, unlike Crime Stoppers, the tips will go directly to the law enforcement agency. Individuals can remain anonymous, and both law enforcement agencies and MMIR office, are committed to keeping people anonymous. That information that you're hanging on to, that's tearing at you, it's time to let it out, and this is an opportunity to do that. I'm hopeful that through the creation of this, through the work of Senator Kunish, this is that final step. This is that final encouragement that people need to share information, and we can bring all of our missing relatives home and bring closure to all of our families. Thank you. Leave this on.
So I know that there's some questions that about exactly how this will work. The purpose of the reward fund is simple: to help solve and bring justice to the cases and the families affected by the MMIR epidemic, not just murdered, but also our missing relatives as well. Where cases have stalled out or investigators feel like they've exhausted all viable leads, we hope this financial incentive will help those who have information come forward. These families, our families, my families, have braved unimaginable pain and loss. And I say to those who have information, now is the time. It's your turn to be brave. Step out of a culture of silence. We need you to come forward with information that will help our families and our community heal. To be eligible for rewards of up to $10,000, there are criteria for both cases and tips. Here's how it works. Cases must be open with law enforcement agencies and go through the MMIR intake process. Tips must offer specific and actionable information that advances the investigation. Tipsters that are involved in the crime are not eligible for rewards, nor are individuals who are deceased. Tips must go through the established channels for receiving tips. And as Chief Maston mentioned, the MMIR office does not accept tips. Reward amounts are determined by law enforcement based on how much the impact moves or advances the case. We'll offer between $1,000 to $2,500 for the identity of persons of interest, up to $5,000 for tips that lead to the arrest or significant progress, and up to $10,000 for locating the remains or closing out long-term unsolved cases, homicides, and missing cases. One of the things that our advisory group considered was whether prosecution was necessary to qualify for this tip. And we decided that prosecution is not necessary. We understand in the justice system, there's times where there's technicalities. We don't want that to be a barrier to, we don't want that to be a barrier. And so prosecution is not required. Right now, there are 16 active cases that are eligible, and tips should be directly submitted to the lead law enforcement agencies. Some jurisdictions that are smaller have asked to use Crime Stoppers, and so on our MMIR page, you'll find the links to those flyers and where to direct tips to regarding the specific cases. Right now, I'd like to introduce some of our impacted family members. Both families that are coming forward are families that I met very early on as our offices were developed. And so today I want to introduce you to Kathy Michaud. She is the mother of Kateri Michaud, and she'll be speaking.
Bonjour. My name is Thunder Spirit Woman, and Kateri's Ojibwe name is Wabigonins, which means little flower. I wanted to tell you a little bit about Kateri and some of the things that we've been going through. The day that Kateri went missing, we were on the evening news expecting to see something about our daughter. Instead, we saw a report about a dog that had run away from the scene of a car accident. I wondered when I would see the reports about our daughter, but never really did. Kateri is her father, and she called every day. She loved fishing and being outside. After she went missing, we received a tip that Kateri might be in the river. My husband walked Ira up and down the banks of the Mississippi every day for over a year, but he didn't find any answers. It's been almost 20 years. We still don't have any answers. And we are still hoping that we might find some answers. I have prayed every day for some resolution, some way to ease that pain of not knowing. If you know anything about the disappearance of our daughter, please come forward. Please help us end this. Miigwech, thank you.
I now want to introduce Lisa Ortley. She is Frank Ortley's mother, and she'll be saying a few words.
This is hard. On October 28th, my son.
Can we read it?
Yeah.
Thank you. On behalf of Lisa Ortley, on October 28th, my son, a brother, and a father, Frank Joseph Ortley, was murdered in Minneapolis in a house full of people. The very next day, on October 29th, that same house, the scene of his death, was set on fire for the first but not the last time. From the very beginning, it felt like someone was trying to erase what happened, but we will not let Frank's story be erased. Since that day, our family has lived with the silence that is both painful and unjust. We have lost more than Frank. We have lost our future with him. His children have lost their father. His siblings have lost their brother. And Lisa, as his mom, has lost countless nights of sleep waiting for answers that have not come. What made this grief even harder is how invisible Lisa felt. Unlike today, when his name is finally being spoken in a public way, there was no coverage here in Minnesota when Frank was killed. Despite her calls and her pleas, her story, her son's story, was ignored. Like many of our families of missing and murdered Indigenous relatives, she and her family have been alone to carry the burden and sit in that silence. But today, I am here to speak his name out loud.
Frank Joseph Ortley, my son. I just need the justice. I just need people to talk. I know there are people in our circle that know things and they're not coming forward. I know people that have known him all his life know things and are not coming forward. Every day is a struggle. Not only for me, but for his sisters, his nieces, his nephews, his kids, his sons. I care for his sons now and always cared for his sons. But to look at them every day and know that their father is no longer here for them. He was close with his boys. He was close with his kids. He was close with his siblings. He was close, so he was a good family person. He always did right. Everybody always sees bad in somebody when they hear about their life. The things, I'm not proud of things that he's done at times in his life, but he's also done good. He's always respected his elders. He's always looked out for people. He's always provided when there was nobody else that would. So I just hope that this will help get some resolution, some justice. We've had so much injustice. Not enough. His investigation went cold because there's not enough leads. The leads I have given were not heard. The leads that were given to me, and I've told them, and they've asked me numerous times, help me, help us, help you with these leads to find justice. They go unheard. They truly go unheard. MMIR has been with me and my family since day one. I appreciate them so much. I will continue to fight for justice for my son. I will continue to find what we need to bring people to justice. And it's like, people, if you just tell me what I want to hear, it's not going to hurt me any more than the pain I'm already going through. There's no pain deeper than what I live with every day, what my kids live with, what his kids live with. There's nothing in this world that can hurt me any more than I've already been hurt. I just want answers, and I just want justice. And I thank you guys all for being here today and supporting this organization, this cause. I didn't think I was going to break down again, but it does. It happens daily, you guys. I wish this on nobody. Thank you. Thank you.
Now we'll open it up for questions. Thank you. Go ahead, Kim.
Can I start again? Just wondering if you can explain the 2-year rollout of this, and what the delay was.
The question was, what was the delay in rolling out the program? That's a fair question. The delay is that there's no model for this. There's no template. And so there was a lot of factors to consider. Unlike Crime Stoppers, we at MMIR cannot directly take tips. Unlike law enforcement jurisdictions who can receive tips and investigate, that is not this fund. Those tips will go directly to law enforcement. So it's a matter of collaborating, consulting, reviewing, revising, over and over again. We wanted to make sure that we did our best to protect the anonymity as much as possible for those that might come forward. We understand it takes a lot of bravery and courage, and so we fought hard to do the best we can and make sure that we do this right.
Question for Chief Maston. In a time when our identities are tied to, let's say, our social media pages, in a digital world, how do you de-identify these tips that come into large police departments? How do you keep people anonymous?
Well, I will say there are systems in place. There is the ability to remain anonymous. However, there is the understanding that when some information is provided, and oftentimes critical, there are systems in place through our court system that can help to keep people anonymous, in-camera hearings and that sort of thing. And we need to really encourage, and it is a tough time. Being private is very difficult. And I understand, just working in my own career, 25 years, I understand retaliation is real, and it's immediate, and it's faster than the justice system. And I just hope that this allows one more avenue of encouragement for people to do the right thing. And I hope that there is the opportunity to close some of these cases with the belief that they can truly remain anonymous. So.
Maria with KSVP, what is the total number of unsolved cases in the city?
Excuse me, the total number of unsolved cases. What the MMIW task force found is that there's gaps in database systems, and so that number is unknown. Last year, what I can tell you that missing persons cases in Minnesota involving Indigenous people was 716. However, the homicide rates between jurisdiction, that number is an unknown number.
And you mentioned that 16 are eligible for your reward. Are those like the long-term cases? And are Frank and Kateri's cases involved in that?
Yes, the cases that are eligible are long-term missing persons cases, an unsolved homicide case, and also the death of Allison Lucier, which has not been officially been called a homicide, but the family and our office has reason to believe that it's a homicide, and so we're here to support cases. That was one of the factors that I know that we wanted to, the MMIW task force and our office has talked about, is what about those areas where we don't agree with those findings? So part of our roles within MMIR is to help advocate, ask questions, and keep at it. So that's how those cases came to be, those 16 cases.
Barrett with Channel 4. You talked about the criteria a little bit for tips. And, you know, it needs to lead to actions to be eligible for that money. But what sort of tips are you looking for? Because sometimes it's something really small that can lead to something big.
Well, I'm sorry, I'll step up here. Obviously, you're absolutely right. It can be the smallest thing, and that's what I'm hoping this encourages, is people who think they have just something small. But you have to realize many of these cases are a giant puzzle. And we might be looking for that one little piece that puts it all together. And we're hopeful that that piece of information might be the link. And clearly law enforcement agencies, ours included, will work closely with MMIR and the Reward Advisory Committee to determine if that in fact was the pivotal point in the case. And for a lot of these, speaking for ours, It has been time. And yes, we've investigated hundreds of tips, just like every other agency who has something like this going on. There are tips that come in immediately, and then they begin to repeat. And there's a little nuance that happens sometimes. You know, the story changes because they heard it from somebody who heard it from somebody. But it might be that one little piece of information that someone's been holding on to that puts it all together, that makes sense of the bigger story and completes that puzzle. And we're hopeful that this reward program allows for that.
Mary Ruthie with Service. I just have a clarifying question for some of the finish on the funding. So the 25 or 2,500, or sorry,
250,000, sure.
250,000. That's one-time funding, but there's also continuous funding coming from the license plate revenue. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. We were able to secure that $250,000 as seed money for the reward system. And then I have always been worried and concerned about how to continue to ensure that there is revenue for this permanent office and also their ongoing work. And so when I mentioned I had an inspiration driving to the Capitol one day about these license plates, it occurred to me that this could be a continual revenue stream for that office for those tips. And so I'm hoping that it will be self-supporting down the road if we're finding that those tips are coming in like crazy and we're running out of money and the legislature needs to fill that empty account again. We'll look at that. But as of now, I'm hopeful that those license plate fees will continue to fund that program. Yep.
Clarify when that 250,000 is secured,
Mm-hmm.
if the license plate money is exclusively for the TIP program or if it's funding other operations within the office?
It was secured and it is within the office, the MMIR office. And then those dollars do go directly to the MMIR office for the tips.
When was the 250,000?
That,
2002, 2003 session.
22 and 23.
I said 22.
Yeah, 2022 and 23, yep, yep.
Jen Longhaver with DPS. I'm asking this on behalf of Care 11. Jessica sent this in. This is probably for Anna. What would you say to people who might not understand why this particular reward fund is needed?
If you look around this room, and I know cameras can't catch all the folks that are here, and if you hear and meet the families that share the stories, you know that this fund is needed. We have a case within the office that's 45 years old, 45 birthdays, 45 holidays, 45 missed Father's Days, that's too long. And that doesn't happen in every community. And there's so many. The fact that at the introduction, at our starting point, we have 16 cases where families don't have answers, it is unacceptable. And so we're trying this next step to help and bring resolution. 716 missing Indigenous people in Minnesota last year. That's astounding. That's I go with families and I sit with them and I talk to them. I'm at birthday parties that no one's there to blow out their candles, and you hear that and you know that this fund is needed.
Can I just add something to that? I think we have to also take into consideration and remember the historic neglect of our Indigenous communities. Some of the reasons why this fund is so important is that there are people out there that know things, and they are afraid to come forward for a number of different reasons. So it's not just the fact that there is a reward or a monetary incentive, which sometimes will get people to move forward and share that information, but it's also the ability to remain anonymous. And so the work that has been done around helping to ensure that if you do come forward, when you do come forward with information, we will keep that as best we can out of the public. Sometimes money loosens a tongue. Sometimes it creates a discussion. Sometimes it adds bits and pieces. But I think at the end of the day, we have to remember that our Indigenous people, our American Indian people, have had such a long distrust of policing, of community organizations, of schools, of government, and that distrust has really added to one of the barriers in finding out what has happened to our loved ones. And so I just wanted to point out that this is not a new thing. This is generations of distrust, and if there's a way that we can create an opportunity to come forward to share that information, then I think this is money well spent.
Melissa Olson from PRN's question for Chief Maston. How do police departments create more trust? Certainly, it doesn't just happen because there are tip reward programs. Trust between Native communities and police.
Oh, absolutely. It takes years. It takes decades. You have to, I'll just speak from my personal involvement. I've been the chief for 14 years, and I've worked very diligently to build relationships, and you have to. And I still recognize there's a level of distrust, excuse me, and we work on it every day. Part of that is helping individuals in understanding what has been said here. Retaliation is real, and it's difficult to speak to someone that you don't trust. And we have to get over that somehow, and I'm hopeful that this does it. I'm hopeful that, you know, the question leading to why is this one different than Crime Stoppers, I've been asked that. This is tied to the MMIR office. Perhaps that creates a new level of trust that, you know, a belief that this organization can keep my identity safe, can keep me anonymous, rather than another organization that I may not already trust, or I've tried in the past and it didn't work for me. So that's our hope.
And Anna, could you clarify what you meant when you said prosecution is not necessary?
What we discussed as the advisory group, and I'm glad to see one of our board members here, Renan Goodrich, traveled down from Duluth today. We had discussions about making sure that cases didn't fall apart during prosecution. If there was, sometimes we see where cases are dismissed based on technicalities, and we wanted to make sure that coming forward mattered, and that it still if it gave the family resolution, that was again, like Senator said, money well spent. We want those answers.
So we're going to take one last question, and then we'll still be available afterwards. If we go ahead.
Kim Hines, Dr. Meehan. Since the office was created in 2021, what has been happening to the tips that have come in?
Tips that come into tips that if families are reaching out to our office, we always direct them back to their lead law enforcement agency to make sure that information is reported directly to law enforcement. We can't take tips, and we want to make sure that it gets in the right hands.
I just want to clarify one more thing, and that is the reward fund can also be used for prevention and campaigns. Is that correct?
There is some additional part of the funding that will support awareness, such as billboards, flyers, that sort of thing. That will also be included in part of this funding. That will include collaborative searches. Not that MMIR is going to be able to cover all and every searches, but we can help coordinate that effort and support where we can, and where if there's funding gaps, that we can step in and support that.
I've got a question just from a family point of view. Senator Kunish, thank you. Thank you for starting this office, first and foremost. Chief Martin, you know what? Your department, I'm going to applaud your department for getting out the missing as quickly as you have. I think that is leading the way to these other departments actually doing their job and doing it correctly. Now in Alice and Lucia's case, This is basically in regards to this reward fund, what I want to know as a family member. There are so many cases down here in Minneapolis that are happening right now that Minneapolis PD and their tip line will not call the families back. This is happening since July 4th. This is documented that these families cannot even get through to the tip line, nor are they getting responses, nor are the investigators coming out and actually speaking to the families or even taking these tips seriously. Now, Allison Lucher's case, if this tip line is going to go to Minneapolis PD, how do we even know, being that they are, this is one of the biggest cover-ups in Minneapolis PD to this date, because as soon as that story came out with the Star and Tribune, Chief O'Hara immediately opened up an internal investigation into who the leak was, rather than trying to find out who killed my niece, or even doing an investigation into the crime scene whatsoever. So now this is happening down here in Minneapolis. So there's a little bit more going on in regards to statistics, in regards to Minneapolis PD. We know that this has gone on forever in regards to Frank Ortley's mother over here. You know, in regards to these families down here, that their loved ones have gone missing. So now, in regards to Allison Lucher's reward fund, how do we entrust the fact that Minneapolis PD is going to even respond when we know, in fact, they are covering this up?
Good afternoon again, Bob Jacobson, the Commissioner of Public Safety, and thank you for your question. Number one, this fund is built, and this process and MMIR are built on serving the families who are victims, including yours, ma'am. And I'm so sorry for the trauma that you or your family may be working through. I'm so sorry to all the other victims and families that are here that continue to suffer through this. And that is the goal behind creating the MMIR office. That is the goal behind creating the reward fund, so that there is yet another avenue for law enforcement to begin to try to follow up on these cases to get more information. And as Senator Kunish had mentioned, there certainly are numerous disparities within the Native community on crimes and crime victims, and we do think it's very important for us to focus the light on those of the Indigenous community and families who have been victims of crime. I do have regular meetings with Commissioner Barnett from the Minneapolis, City of Minneapolis. I'll certainly share some of those concerns that you've discussed. There also certainly would be other alternatives if families feel as though they can't trust a local agency, or they feel that they need to speak with someone else. Certainly can speak to other agencies that are nearby, or the State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. But we always prefer that tips or investigative leads go through the agency of jurisdiction. But nothing says that you can't report something not only to a local police department, but you can also report it to the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension or the Department of Public Safety, and we'll certainly follow up with those organizations. I know that again, we have a ways to go to build trust, as Chief Maston has mentioned and others. Law enforcement and public safety, we do have a ways to go, and we need to continue to work on that. And what I'm really hoping for is that events such as this and announcements such as this create some synergy and some energy, not only in the Indigenous community, but in communities at large, that this is an issue that we need to find those who are missing and murdered. We need to prosecute when we absolutely ever can those who are responsible. So we'll continue to look at that, and we want to be as helpful as we can.
How are we going to hold the police accountable? How are we going to hold the police accountable? You know, in Allison Lucher's case, you know, Mr. Jacobson, the fact that they did not call in crime scene from the instant that they found her deceased. They never found her phone. They didn't, her door was unlocked. This is not the actions of somebody that is terrified for her life. Now, when we go into this, and Chief O'Hara, Mayor Fry, is still backing Minneapolis PD, and Chief O'Hara, and he goes on TV spinning the narrative of an Indigenous woman that was fearing for her life, you know, spinning the fact that, you know, she had drugs in her system. Now, this is kind of like one of those issues, how do we trust you, and what are you going to do for our community? I mean, let me just tell you another thing, and I'm sure that you've heard of this case, where Minneapolis PD, 2 weeks ago, a 17-year-old was overdosing on the side of the road, right next to a squad car. Somebody Narcaned him, ran to the squad car, and your police department, 2 officers, refused to give them Narcan, so that they don't carry it. And then they said that they would have to call paramedics in order to get it, to receive it. They were willing to watch a 17-year-old die in front of them. And I know that that's your policy. That is Minneapolis PD's policy, to carry Narcan on them. And then to refuse actually calling paramedics for this family. An 11-year-old had to run back to Little Earth and get Narcan in order to keep this child alive.
So I think if you have some time, let's take this offline after this. I would love to sit down and talk with you a little bit, make sure that you have my contact information. We can continue to talk about this. And again, to you and to the families here who have suffered from, from the trauma of losing missing or murdered relative, again, our condolences and our thoughts are with you all. And let's catch up offline and see if we can come up with some solutions, or at least have some good discussion, if that's okay.
I hope so, because I'm tired of going in front of the city council. I'm tired of having to go down there and make this case, be known. You know what? Yeah. I mean, this is what's happened here to us in our community. And the fact is that, Chief Martin, thank you for standing up. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for doing what's right for our people.
All right, let's catch up offline.
We'll be around, I'll be around for additional questions and can coordinate everything. Thank you so much for attending. If you're impressed, make sure you have our press release. And thank you to all of our speakers, and thank you so much. Everybody have a great day.